Welcome to the coffee talk with salty Vixen's flair. Dive into deep thoughts, no topics to air.
Welcome to Salty Vixen's Coffee Talk, a place where I talk about what is on a Salty Vixen's mind. I'm an author, I'm a musician, and a mother, and I am the founder of Salty Vixen brand. Today's episode is titled How the Democrats Fucked Up the Election. And I don't think there's any other way to title this episode because, well, the Democrats did mess up. I mean, you have a vice president who is a woman, and she is a woman who cannot define what a woman is, who says not to celebrate Christmas, who says pronouns are cool, and to use celebrity endorsements to get the younger people to vote. The problem is with celebrity endorsements, the younger people are not old enough to vote. Just FYI. And also, she keeps changing the race. One moment she's Indian, the next moment she's African American. She can't make up her mind. And if you listen to her talk at certain events she had gone to, she changes her accent. And that's just weird. I mean, look, when I live in Europe, of course, I get the English accent very easily because, I was part of the part of the world. I hung out with Prince William, Prince Harry. I evolved into that or developed the accent because I was living in Europe for over 2 years. And when you listen to my bedtime stories with Salty Vixen, I have a bit of an accent. That's the voice I developed, a character. But that is only for my stories. In real life, this is my accent. I grew up in Michigan. Half my family is from Appalachia, Kentucky, Williamsburg, and Pineville. So you do hear the Appalachian accent come out. And by the way, when I was a kid in second grade in Farmington Hills, Michigan, Mrs. Urbonia told me to stop talking like a hick. So I got in trouble for saying the word ain't. And that was the 1980s era. Reagan, Bush, etc. So yeah, that was good times. And I had to develop the Michiganian accent. But when I'm with my cousins and grandparents and great-grandparents, my true accent comes out. There's a difference. I don't put things on. Well, except for my character for Salty Vixen. And of course, on my personal social media page, people I went to high school with 30 plus years ago are hardcore Democrats. And they will troll people like myself who voted for Trump. Because they can't understand why I vote for a man to make America great again. Why vote for a man who loves America? And they are going by what the media has spoon-fed everybody. And that is, Trump's a bully. Trump did this to Miss Carroll, and which, by the way, there was no evidence. Remember, and I talked about in the previous vlog, I was sexually assaulted 18 June 2004 by one of Prince William's friends, name will never identify. A long-ass time ago. Shit happens. I did not report it then. Why would I wait now, over 20 years to report this? And personally, I think the reason why Miss Carroll waited until now to make a mountain of a molehill out of this is because she wanted publicity, fame, money. That's all it is at the end of the day, because if it really did happen, report it then. But as a woman myself who had been sexually assaulted, it's hard to report things. I get it. In my case, I couldn't report it because it happened out in Pole Field at 10:45 p.m., and there was no police station near there. And I still can report it in England. I choose not to. Because whose life would I be ruining? The dude's life? My life? Because he's friends with Prince William? Oh, Prince William will be in the papers. And then a whole article about, gee, what kind of people were they in their 20s in the polo world? And then all these other women will come forward. Because, yeah, it was a summer that a lot of women were sexually harassed and sexually assaulted. And a lot of women I have spoken to over the years said, we just want to forget about it and move on. And I agree. So going back to the subject at hand, as you know, I am a storyteller, so it's easy for me to get off the beaten path of the subject matter. The left is in a full panic mode because they just don't know why they lost. And if you go on all the social media pages and you see not just the woke people losing it, people who are Democrats in their 30s all the way up to 50s age range. So why did Harris lose the election? Well, the common sense denominator is she went woke. And hardcore Democrats are not going to go woke. And she was catering towards the people who have, and I'm not trying to be mean or joke about it, but it's true, mental health issues. When you're normalizing pedophilia, which is freaking disgusting, and that's what was going on in the Democratic Party, when you are normalizing that it's okay to spread woke ideology at schools, when you are normalizing that kids should be getting hormone blockers, because one day this boy was watching Pep the Pig and he thinks he's a female pig. So therefore, mom's going to dress him like a female pig or whatever the case. And not realizing, oh, hey, the kid just likes the show. And now this kid's getting made fun of at school because parents don't think about the long-term effect. And that kid's going to be traumatized for the rest of his life. The world had become insane. On top of that, our economy is crap. The border security is in question. I mean, I saw protests on TV in New York about illegal immigrants are protesting about Trump. And I hate to say this, but the illegal immigrants took a lot of our jobs away. I can't go over to England illegally and live there. I can't go to Mexico illegally and live there. I have to do things the right way. So why are they complaining? They got it good. They came here illegally. They're working. So why are they complaining? As you know, the Democrats should have listened to the millions of people who were appealing to them that inflation had reared its ugly head and was causing them to make difficult choices in their everyday living. Look, I'm a single mother and I will talk about this all the time. My 17-year-old daughter this summer, which is a great example, was telling me, I deserve new things in my room. I deserve $800 wardrobe, this and that. And before Biden was in office, I could afford these things. Now, obviously I don't spoil my kids like that, but I was living on a $2,400 a month child support. My ex pays my mortgage. I'm thankful for that. And the way it was is I was supposed to have my job, which I do, Salty Vixen Publishing, have my books sold and my podcast, my other one. And as I continue to grow the brand, I'll be able to buy my ex out of this house, right? But when Biden became president, things had changed. And now when I was making like $2,000 to $3,000 a month, I'm making a fraction of that. And what my daughter doesn't realize that when you are running a company, there are costs. Running a website, you have to do marketing, ads. You'll see on my social media page, I do these fun little quotes on there, romance quotes or political quotes, whatever comes to mind to continue to market my brand. And, because I can't afford someone to market for me, I have to do all this on my own. It's fun to do, but man, it's tedious. And with that said, this past summer, things had changed dramatically that just with the child support alone, because groceries had gone up. By the end of the first week, I was down to about $40 or less until the 15th when I got my next child support. And you're going, wait, Salty, what about your publishing? Well, I put everything to my LLC. How much sales have I made this month? What's going into my company maintenance? And I was not making a profit. In fact, last time I made a profit was a year ago. So I'm holding on to that money as much as possible, but I've had to use it, going to my LLC to pay off my phone bill. And I never had to do that before. And it's sad, and I see like people like Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly who make a hell of a lot of money with their podcasts. I'm sitting there, I'm like, why can't I make a ton of money with my books anymore? Because the world is oversaturated. It's like eBay when you find Beanie Babies on there. You want to sell it? Well, good luck. You're not going to make the money. So things had changed. And my daughter had friends where the parents had to sell their house because they couldn't afford their mortgage anymore. On the same salary they were making, they couldn't afford it and move into an apartment. And so far, I know 5 families this past summer who had to do that. That's how bad the economy had gotten under the Biden-Harris administration. And so my daughter would say, I just don't understand why we can't afford this. And of course, she'd go tell her dad. And instead of her dad being on my side, he just flips a coin saying, well, where's mommy spending all that money? She's spending things frivolously. I know that she is. Because when we were together, he would do that. He was stipend us to the point where I had to go to the dollar store for food. It was an abusive situation because he got in his head that I'm not pinching pennies. And in fact, that's all I ever do. When was the last time I got my hair done? Well, I got it done a week ago. But before that was 6 months prior to that. So I'm doing the best I can as a single mother. And when my former classmates on my social media page, my personal one, say to me, why did you go Republican? Well, that's part of the reason. And many other Americans will agree with me. You cannot survive on a single parent budget anymore. So with that said, every presidential election in the past, pocketbook issues determined the outcome of the election. So Democrats should also admit that they have lost many of the blue collar and middle class people that the party once prided itself as being in the Democratic camp. Are you listening, Joy Behar? Why the blue collar people went red? They were going red during the Carter-Reagan election because Jimmy Carter sucked as a president. Also, Donald Trump voters are not uniform. Yes, more of those in his constituency don't hold college degrees, but many do have degrees, like myself, which, by the way, my degree is political science. And I worked for Congressman Joel Nolenberg in Michigan, who was Republican, a loved man in both parties. And my professor in college was former U.S. Ambassador David Rawson during the Clinton administration. He was ambassador to Rwanda. So I was influenced by a lot of great people, in my opinion. Anyway, but many do have degrees and are not living paycheck to paycheck. The demographics include more than white males. This has been missed completely by the Democratic Party. And the ugly truth of inflation is colorblind, and the party, for whatever reason, failed to recognize this fact. Finally, many of those same people who have left the Democratic Party and voted for Trump were and are still frustrated with the elevation of issues that were perceived to be just as important to the party as the general economy, immigration, and crime. And the Democrats will have to decide whether they want to double down on the progressive platform or move back to the Democratic Party of the earlier years. What earlier years are you talking about? Clinton era? Obama? Carter? Oh no, we don't want to go back to Carter era. Or when they flipped in the 60s or 70s era. Now that's an idea, because in a way we were going back in time with the economy during the New Deal era, if you think about it. But the problem is, if you go back to the old Democratic Party, we got to remember the Democrats were originally Republicans and Republicans were originally Democrats. Remember, they flipped during 60s or 70s era. I don't remember the exact year, but it was around civil rights. And it was happening in the South when people were flipping. James Carville in 1992 quipped, "It's the economy, stupid," and it's still relevant. Trump's support has certainly set the table for him, but the Democrats' inability to convey the digestible message explaining the economy over the last 4 years likely put Trump over the top. And I think that's accurate to say. Do you agree? And Joe Biden inherited a raging pandemic and the economy in crisis, yet he held very few news conferences in the past 4 years to address inflation. If roles had been reversed, does anyone honestly believe Trump would have hesitated using the bully idea, blaming inflation on Democrats? Granted, Trump's businessman skills combined with extensive right-wing media apparatus gave him an enormous megaphone. I mean, Trump is a businessman through and through. That's what we need as a president. And I think we've lost our way when it comes to how to run a country. I mean, look at Tony Blair, Margaret Thatcher. I can't remember the last few prime ministers of England because they did not do anything exciting to remember. Nothing memorable, in my opinion. Yeah, you have Boris with the weird hair. Who is our current prime minister of England, by the way? I have no idea. I'm just kidding, I know. But he's nothing memorable is what I'm trying to say. So bottom line, if the Democrats can't figure out how to message the truth, I don't see our democracy recovering in the Democratic idealism. And the other problem is you have people like Don Lemon, I call him a talking head on CNN, which I know he's not there anymore, but the talking heads, the commentators who say a bunch of bullshit, and there are people who believe in that. And I cannot believe they're believing these commentators. And I don't forget the other ones on MSNBC and others on CNN. The View. I mean, they were having a meltdown, blowing their gasket over Trump winning. But here's the problem with these commentators, aka talking heads. Never once have they thought about the average person who can't afford a stick of butter or pay the bills, or the average person that has to go get on food stamps because they don't want to. They had to because they have a family to support. And by the way, for single mothers, how many single mothers out there that had to go on food stamps when they're dating, that the guy looks down upon you because you're on food stamps because they think you're lazy? The stereotype is there. And you don't get much. You really don't get much on food stamps. I mean, yeah, there are families who get a lot, and I can't explain why they get a lot. Because on average, those who have food stamps with a family of 3 get about $311. That's it. And with the way the economy is and the way groceries are costing everybody, you get a week's worth of groceries with that. And if you don't make enough money, what are you going to do the second week? Now, I'm not trying to say, oh, we're ungrateful for getting food stamps or whatnot. It's a blessing, but I'm just pointing out, this is the way the world has become. So these Democrats are wondering, why the hell did Democrats become Republican? Why did they vote for Trump? Well, this is the very reason. We're tired of being able to not have a normal life where we can say, hey, kids, let's go to Disney World. Hey, kids, let's go for a random road trip. Or let's go get plane tickets and go to France. You can't live that life of luxury anymore. I mean, this summer, The only vacation we did, we watched movies of going to France or going to Japan. I could not go anywhere this summer. That's how bad the economy was for me. So going back to what I said earlier, when my daughter was complaining why I couldn't spend a lot of money to get her brand new stuff. I mean, she got a new bed she needed, a new mattress and new blankets. She did get new clothes, but it had to be on a budget. And I've got 2 kids. Winter's coming around. Both kids need new clothes. And I have to budget for that. Am I able to do that? Well, I pray I can. Unfortunately, I'm not Joe Rogan making millions a month or a year. I wish I was. I think we all do, right? So when you wonder why did the Democrats fuck this up? Well, there you go. Vice President Harris lost a close election because of the misogyny and racism. Yes, the R card. I hate to bring that word up, but that's the truth. You know how many times we heard everybody's racist or white people are racist? Oh my God, I was so tired of hearing this. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, do you even know your own history? The fact you're saying white people are racist, maybe you're actually racist yourself. And my other favorite was, well, white people were slave owners. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, do you even know your history? Which, by the way, I'm going to bring this up right now because history was part of my degree. After the civil rights movement, we were learning that white people were slave owners. But before civil rights movement, and if you look at the old history books, my aunt had her history books from the late 50s, early 60s. They taught that all people were slave owners regardless of race. And newspapers written by African American journalists in the South before civil rights movement wrote articles once or twice a year about black slave owners before the Civil War. And we also forget that there was a 1% white class who owned slaves. And when you do your research, majority of the slave owners in the South were either black or biracial, aka mulatto, a word I will never say again, but for historical purposes, I will say that word. And guess what? My Appalachian side, who came over from North Carolina, were Native American, and I know exactly what tribe they came from. Thank God for documentation, not from my family only, but actual proof from land records when they changed their name to be Americanized or Britishized at that time. What they did for Native Americans who were slave owners, their slaves were actually Native Americans. I'm talking about 1700s, and that's documented if they had a will. And in fact, my 4th great grandfather, Solomon Bunch, married a woman named Nancy with no last name. It was an arranged marriage. His dad had died, Julius Bunch had died, and Julius wrote in the will that all of his children get some land, including the female children. It wasn't just male, and which was unusual at that time because women could not own property. But in Native American culture, women could own property. That was a fun thing to learn about my family or Native American culture as a whole because we don't know much about Native Americans. They've been almost eradicated from history books. And Native Americans don't know a lot about their cultures. I'm talking about the ones who have tribes in North Carolina or East Coast because the true people of these tribes are gone. They're in our blood, in my blood. And I know the 3 tribes I'm from. One of them is East Cherokee. And that's when one family came over to Kentucky. And there's a great story I would love to share one day that my 4th great grandfather did to save some of the tribes from the land that he bought in 1820 in Kentucky. And it's still in my family till this day. And the stories have been passed down. Anyway, so he married Nancy, an arranged marriage. She was Native American from the same tribe, Pocosun tribe. That's what they were called, their swamp. And she was living on the British families, the neighbors, that my family took on the last name. Wild story to know, but it's true. Until this day, people researching my family are going, well, gee, who's Nancy's last name? We don't know. And they don't know where they're buried because they're buried the Native American tradition, which my immediate family knows the full story. And we know where Solomon Bunch is buried on the land. But people doing researchers don't think about contacting the original family. Anyways, that's a story for another time, right? But yeah, it's just the whole racism card. I'm so sick of hearing about it. So I hope that stops. I hope the whole pronouns stop. I'm so sick of, I identify as a tree today. They, them. It's ridiculous. And these young kids who are calling themselves trans, especially the girls, say, well, I'm a dude. You're a tomboy. What happened to the word tomboy? We have femboy. What happened to the word tomboy? I was a tomboy. Never once thought I was trans. I'm not trans. I'm a woman through and through. My point is, during the Biden-Harris administration, the word tomboy was virtually eradicated. Why? because we want to make the woke agenda so strong. And this is what the Democrats' ideology was, make it so strong so they would vote. And these woke people don't realize that's all it is, gaining the vote. Because the Democratic Party doesn't give a shit about you or I, unless you're rich and you donate money, but they don't care. So anyways, the American dream is increasingly out of reach for many of us Americans. And I think that's a factual statement to say, right? And immigration, abortion, border security, inflation are important issues, like I said earlier, but scapegoats for the fundamental problem of the economic issue of the working class. And guess what Trump did? He pulled a Reagan, he pulled a Kennedy, he pulled a Clinton. He tapped into that frustration, and the Democrats sidestepped it by using, well, celebrities' endorsements, which how many of us give a shit about celebrity endorsements? I don't care. Do you know what's funny? Celebrities are going, I'm fleeing America because Trump's president. Well, go do it. They haven't. And they're not going to. Why? Because they got it good here. Just stop. Stop the negativity at the end of the day. And the Democrats had sidestepped what Trump tapped into with policies and messages that they did not really speak to the fear. So hopefully things change with Trump, and we know it will because he's a businessman and he loves America. And I told my Democratic friends, I voted for Trump because when Trump was president, we had a good economy. I could afford things. Instead of having $20 left over in between paychecks, I had $200 left over. That's the difference. When I go to McDonald's and get a fish fillet sandwich meal, $10.29. That's how much it cost me a few days ago. I ate out, took my kids to a sushi place because my ex was supposed to take the kids out for dinner, but he canceled last minute. No surprising there. For the same meal, when Trump was president, it had been like $20. It was $46. And I looked at my wallet and I said, shoot, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't take my kids out to eat. But you know what? I had to because I hadn't gone grocery shopping because my ex was supposed to take the kids out for dinner. So I'm getting out my coupons and saying, okay, what can I get until I get paid in a few days? And that's how I penny pinch every single week. And my ex, who's a liberal, will say, you're spending things all the time. All that child support money. What are you buying with that? Food, groceries, Have you heard that word? Gas for the car because I got to drive them to and from school. I'm using exactly what the child support money is for. And then he'll say, well, get a job. I do have a job. See, here's the thing. What a lot of liberals don't realize that people who are single parents have to work their butt off. And in my situation, being a full-time single mother of 2 teenagers, I don't have the luxury to work a 9-to-5 job at an office. Why? Because my daughter is bipolar. She needs me. My son needs me. And I have to be there for school. I have to be there to help with homework if needed, which thankfully, they're so smart, they don't need help with homework. I got to be there to make them nice meals. I have to be there for any sports or band functions, school functions. So I created a job from nothing. I started writing erotica one day and did some research and found out, oh, that stuff sells as long as I make it good. And that's what I did. I had to get good at it. And I kept building the brand, have my podcast. Now I have this podcast I'm building. I have my music. I edit people's manuscripts. I did all this shit on my own without any help. And that's pretty awesome, right? But I'm not making enough money as I did during the first Trump administration. It is what it is. So folks out there who are single parents like me struggling, it's going to get better. You got this. Smile, because good things are coming. All right, my lovelies, I'm going to end this podcast by saying, I hope you have a lovely day. Until next time, this is Salty Vixen. Goodbye.
Come and share with me. So let's chat about the highs, let's chat about the lows. In this cozy little corner, anything goes. Every sip tells a story, every word brings a smile. With every conversation, we'll go that extra mile.